What is up, my friends? Welcome to my channel, Action Investor here. And so as you guys can see here, we're at $344,009.77. And as you guys know, the focus of my portfolio is dividends. So if we go over to dividends on an annual basis, estimated to make $62,000 per year and making over $5,000 on a monthly basis. And so today I'd like to talk to you guys about saving for emergencies, having an emergency fund, or don't have an emergency fund. So obviously, if you've ever heard of Dave Ramsey, I'm sure that you've heard of him. His first recommendation is to save up for an emergency fund. And so you build up an emergency fund anywhere from 3 to 6 months worth of monthly expenses. And so how do you start from zero and get to numbers like these? Well, the first thing I initially did was I saved up an emergency fund. And so the emergency fund does give you some peace of mind for in case you do end up getting laid off, fired, or whatnot. You have that cash there to help you if you do end up getting fired. And so in some cases where people are living paycheck to paycheck, and as you guys know, statistically speaking, 80% of the American population is living paycheck to paycheck, so they have no emergency savings. So someone in a situation like that gets fired and they don't have an emergency fund, they don't have any savings, they're going to be in a really tough spot. They're going to need to find a job immediately because, we got bills, you got rent, and you just got all these bills to pay. And so in a previous video, I think probably one of my first videos, I spoke about a pivot point for me in my life when I checked my bank account after paying for all of our bills. I was left with $35. And so after sitting down with my wife and telling her, you know what, we've paid all of our bills, which is great, but all we got left is $35, which is not very good. And so at that point, that's when I decided that I can't live that way anymore. I can't live paycheck to paycheck. I've got to be able to save an emergency fund. Because if at that moment or if in that week when all I had was $35, if I would have got fired right then and there or during that month or during that week, it would have been devastating. It would have been very difficult. And so now I'd have to go look for another job, and well, you guys get the idea. And so I started building up an emergency fund. So that was the first step from going to $35 to like 1,000, then 5,000, 10,000 savings, and so on and so on and so forth. And so I've increased that number over time. And so now that I'm at these numbers, does it still make sense to have an emergency fund? At this point, maybe it doesn't. But still, nonetheless, I have kept my emergency fund. It's fully funded. It's sitting in a bank account making close to 5%. And so, yeah, I still hold an emergency fund. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about this story. It's in the Bible. It's in the book of Genesis, towards the end of the book of Genesis. If you've ever gone to church or Sunday school, you may have heard about this story, the story of Joseph. And so just to cut to the chase as quick as possible, during the Egyptians, when Egypt was like the maximum power of its time, the Pharaoh or the king of Egypt had a dream. And so he had a dream. He told the dream to all of the astronomers and magicians of his time, all of the intellectual people of his time, but no one was able to give him an interpretation of the dream. But a person in the council of the king said, hey, there is a man, his name is Joseph, and he has the Spirit of God in him, and he can interpret the dream. And so Joseph was called before Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And so the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, told Joseph, hey, this is my dream. right? In my dream, I saw 7 fat cows that were fat, healthy, full of beef or whatever, right? And they were uh, eating by the Nile. And just after he saw those 7 fat cows that were full and healthy and full of meat, he saw 7 other cows that were ugly, bony, skinny, and very unhealthy. They came up the Nile and completely swallowed up the big, fat, healthy cows. And so Pharaoh explained this to Joseph, and he asked Joseph, "Hey, can you give me the interpretation of the dream? What is it? What does the dream mean?" And Joseph told him, "You know what? I can't tell you what the dream means. I don't have the interpretation. The only one who can interpret dreams and give you the meaning is God. Okay, he's the only one." But nonetheless, Joseph received the interpretation of Pharaoh's dream from God. And so uh, Joseph told the king of Egypt, "Hey, the 7 fat, healthy cows represent 7 years of abundance. 7 years where people will have more than what they need. 7 years where there'll be plenty, even more than plenty. People will have more than they need. They'll have more food than they need. Everything will be in abundance for the next 7 years. After the 7 years, the 7 ugly, skinny, sickly cows, that's 7 years of famine, 7 years of difficulty, 7 years where people will want, and they'll want, but they won't be able to receive. They won't be able to get. People will go hungry. Uh, it'll be a very difficult time. As a matter of fact, Joseph said, uh, the 7 years of famine will be so terrible that everyone in Egypt will forget the 7 years of abundance. And so Joseph's plan to Pharaoh was, you know what, you got to find somebody who's wise, who will save a portion of all the food during the years of abundance. So during the years of abundance, you got to save, right? Save a lot of food so that Egypt survives, so that the country survives, so that the people survive. Okay? And so many of us have lived years of abundance. Okay? Here where we live. You've lived years of abundance. I have lived years of abundance. And unfortunately, the years of famine have come. The difficult times. We all have difficult times. They come along every so often, right? There's times when there's lots of work, there's lots of money, and there's times when there isn't very much work, and there isn't very much money. There isn't very much going on. But this story teaches us that during the years of abundance, during those years when you work and work and work, and you work a bunch of overtime, and you get paid, and you're making a bunch of money hand over fist, it teaches us to save some of that money for an emergency, for the famine, for the years where there's not going to be much work, for the years where you're not going to make as much money. It teaches us to save, because the years of famine or the difficult years may be coming ahead, or the difficult day may come ahead, the difficult month. You just don't know when it's going to happen, right? But if you've been saving, then you're prepared for it. You're ready for it. If you've been saving and you have an emergency fund, then you're ready. You're ready for those difficult times. Now, you can find videos on YouTube about emergency funds, how to save emergency funds, all the details about how to do it. You also find videos where, oh, I just got fired and now I don't know what to do because I fully depended on my job and I was living paycheck to paycheck, right? And then you got other people where like, well, I just got fired, but guess what? I got a fully funded emergency fund. I got a pile of cash sitting there. And so I'm not worried at the moment about paying my bills because I'm able to pay my bills for the next 6 months or for the next 3 months. I got that money. It's right there. It's sitting there. And that's what it's for. It's for an emergency. And so I've been saving money for years. And now I'm at this point, right? I didn't get here overnight, as I've explained before. And as I've said before, I didn't inherit this money. Nobody gave it to me. I didn't win the lottery, but I've worked hard to reach this point, to save this money. And now I'm at the point where I'm using this money to generate even more money. Okay. So in the current position financially that I'm in, I still have a job. I still work every day, 8 hours a day. But if I were to get fired, right? If I were to get fired, well, oh well, right? I got my fully funded emergency fund. Not only that, but I'm making an annual income right here. I'm making over $5,000 a month right here. So, do I want to get fired? Obviously, I don't want to get fired from my job. But if it were to happen, I'm in a fairly good financial situation here. Not too worried about it. Brings peace of mind. And so, when you begin from zero, you start to save. Okay, you start piling up that cash. And obviously, if you're piling up that cash, you want to put it in a place where it's going to at least pay you some interest. So you build up that cash, anywhere from 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Okay, if you do it, in my case, I did whatever I had to do to get there. I stopped buying all kinds of stuff to get there. I stopped going to Starbucks. I stopped buying unnecessary things to make it to a fully funded emergency fund. Soon after I fully funded my emergency fund, then I was able to heavily invest, throwing the cash right here into all these different ETFs. And of course, as of recent, all of these Yeildmax ETFs have improved this situation because, I mean, simply by buying one, for example, like this one, AMZ, simply by buying this one, this all by itself is going to make me $1,000 a month. It's making me $1,000 a month. Okay? I put the money in, it's making me money. And so once you have that cushion of cash right there, then you can start here. Then you can start building this up. At least that's how I've done it. That's what I've experienced. Now, you may have a different experience. You may even, if you're watching this, you may even be in a better financial situation than me. That may be the case. It may be the case that you're not in a better financial situation than me. There are always different levels of finance. I've seen this one guy, Ethan. I don't know if you've ever seen him, seen his channel. I forget the name of his YouTube channel. But this guy, Ethan, I mean, this guy's got tens of millions of dollars in an investment account. Now, I'm not there. Most of us aren't there, and most of us won't ever get there. But we can reach some amount. We can shoot for some type of goal. You can shoot for 1,000. You can shoot for 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, $250,000. You can reach it. You can do it if you really want to. If that's what you really want, you strive for it. You can reach it. You can make it there. You can have $250,000. All right, because here I am, the average person with an average job, with an average salary, okay? And I've made it to this point. Obviously, with the help of God, okay? I have to give credit to God because He's the one who's allowed me to get to this point financially. And so that's how I would do it, I guess, if I was starting from zero once again. I would do whatever it takes to just save as much money as possible. One of the things that really bumped up my financial situation is that every time I got paid from my tax refund, every tax refund that I've ever gotten paid, it's right here. I never had any other plan for my tax refund. When I knew that it was time to go get my tax refund, I never thought like, oh, now I can buy this gadget, or now I can buy a new TV, or now I can put down a new car, right? Down payment for a new car, or now I can buy this clothes that I've been wanting to buy. No, that never even crossed my mind. When I got my tax refund, and I immediately thought, I know where it's going. I know where that money is going to go. That money is going to go right into the market, and it's going to start working for me. That's what I'm going to do. So it's like a little bit of a change of mindset, right? You you give your money a job, and it's like your money becomes your employee. So this money is like having a bunch of employees that are working hard for me, making me this money right here, over $5,000 a month. Now, can you replicate this? Of course you can. You can do this. You can replicate this. Now, this is not financial advice, but you can do this. It's not impossible. It is possible. It is possible for you to reach this. And maybe you already have, which is great, which is phenomenal. And so I just want to thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing if you have subscribed. Please smash that like button. I really would appreciate it. And as you guys know, I encourage you, start making YouTube videos. If you haven't started, start doing it. It can become that source of income for you, where you can start making videos, possibly even making money, and then putting that money right here to work for you. Okay? I encourage you, start a YouTube video, do it. Don't hesitate, don't wait. Get to it, because we need to make that internet money. Okay? That's why I'm doing this. I need to make that internet money. I want to make that internet money. Now, it's probably just a matter of time. It's probably just consistency, doing it over and over and over and over again. And when you constantly do something over and over and over again, you get better and better and better at it. Okay? So I encourage you, you can do this, you can reach this, you can set these goals, you can obtain something like this. Thanks for watching. Please, if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I really would appreciate it. You guys have a great day. God bless. Talk to you in the next one.